All right, let's get this started. Hello, guys. Good morning. How you guys doing on this fine Saturday morning? I'm so sorry for the delay. We had some technical issues that we had to work around, but that's over already, and let's get this started. Welcome back to week 4 of Gen AI Study Jam, and I just want to let you know that today's session is brought to you by Sunway Tech Club, Sunway University Faculty of Engineering and Technology, and Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning Malaysia. All right, as you know, today is week 4, and although we started a little late, let's hope that we can end on time today. And today's speaker, we're going to have Dr. Yong, and he is a associate professor and Deputy Director Center for Business Incubation and Entrepreneurial Activities of TAR UMT. All right, so today's topics are going to be domain-specific large language models and fine-tuning large language models. And without further ado, let's get the show on the road, and I'll pass it on to you, Doctor.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep, we hear you loud and clear.
All right. Okay, again, sorry for the technical issues just now. The team, like the committee team, and also I myself was trying to log in, but then we were facing some unknown technical issue. Okay, all right. Anyway, okay, so for today, right, I just want to check. Just now, I just send the link to the chat room. Can you all see it?
Yeah, we can see the link that you sent.
Okay. Yep, I think the committee no issue, but those who joined this live session, can you all see? I'm not sure whether the setting here, because the entire work today right here, right, is based on this. And I think they cannot respond anything, right, since they are watching live.
We are monitoring the
so.
live Q&A. So far we're still waiting for them to reply with responses.
All right.
We've published the link already also.
Okay, so that those are watching from live, right, try to see whether you can see any link from the chat room or something like this. If not, right, please quickly let us know so that at least we can have some workaround to show you the link. By default, I assume that all are able to access. Okay, I believe that the committee here and I myself definitely no issue to access it. And very quick one, I'm going to share my screen shortly. All right, again, double check, can you see my screen?
Yep, we can see you in the screen.
All right. Okay, so that again, that's something I mentioned just now, that I embed everything into my personal website, and it is open 24/7. And here, right, from here to you can see that it is just a simple website design. It comes with a presentation deck and also hands-on lab, which we shall just use a collab, and then write a little bit about the event today, and the last one is a chatbot here as well. So that feel free to just ask anything. They say, what is fine-tuning? Then you're gonna answer. This is actually you will answer real time or this thing, which is actually suit to the topic today. Okay, I go back here, and you all may just look at this screen. And you have the second laptop or screen, right? Feel free to just open it accordingly and follow it. Okay, all right. So practical LLM fine-tuning here. Today, the topic here is actually about the domain-specific LLM. And in this case, right, it is about something related to, I believe for the past few weeks, you have learned what LLM is, connected the API offered by any LLM developer or LLM models, and to do some those Q&A, perhaps RAG, connect to database, so on and so forth. And in general, right, why? Okay, now we have this general LLM. For example, Gemini, ChatGPT, or OpenAI, and then some other example, the open source, let's say Gemma. Okay, then the question here is that from this general one, can we move to specific? You can imagine that the LLM, the general LLM, right, is something like a very smart professor. He knows, he understands everything. He's so smart that he understands everything. But because of that, right, when we want to talk about something gossip one, let's say, I just give you some scenario about the love letters that I sent to my wife. All these things, this smart professor, he doesn't know. Unless if he has been shown, he has been shared with all this information. And that one, in order to do that, the entire process, we call it fine-tuning. So one of the examples later on during the practical I'm going to share with you is something related to, we want to fix the way how this LLM to answer us. That's the first thing. And the second thing is also that there are additional information that this LLM never see before. Like example, just like I said that some P&C stuff, from the as small as like a love letter, or else that for the company setup, it may be those special company P&C, PII data, and also all those that like example internal policy, because the company the LLM never see before, and therefore we have to fine tune accordingly so the LLM can answer it accordingly. And of course, there's another perspective or use case, which is something related to what if we want to fix how LLM answer. This one, especially when we are using the very low number of parameter. Actually, when we use a high number of parameters, right, most of the time nowadays, by just apply the proper prompt engineering, it can work very well. But the problem here is what if I'm using those with a less parameter? Can I fine tune so that I can use it only for my specific task? So this is something, a quick intro about the fine tuning here to see it. Okay, the reason why I share this something the screen like this, first because just now the practical issue, I don't want the technical issue, I don't want to add any new hassle. And the second also show you that since today I believe generally more related to Google, and then but it's not really limited only for Google. But since I show you here, right, I like to also like put it here. You can see that by using Gemini, right, the document, it can actually give us summary here and there to put it. So once you access this file, which is in PDF, you should be able to see something like this if you have this Gemini feature. Okay, next. Let me move on. So, by the way, a little bit about myself that I am from TAR UMT, a university from Malaysia, and then I'm handling Center for Business Incubation and Entrepreneurial Ventures. In short, something about industry, academia, collaboration. So we are dealing with the industry to do all these industry projects, consultancy, so on and so forth. And then prior to joining this university, I was working for a bank as a head of data and AI. So we develop and establish more than 100 models for the bank use, and then also like automate using the ML ops, so on and so forth. Okay. So now what you are going to learn is first, I roughly which verbally mentioned or told you just now that why, and then we are going to do some hands-on and try to understand the real world application. So as usual, these 2 to 3 hours of sharing here, right? First, we start with some theories to understand a bit, and then subsequently to proceed with a practical. And initially, the setup was based on the face-to-face physical session, whereby we will have some practical, and then we'll have an exercise to do. And now since a change to online and or virtual, we shall see how it work later on. Okay, probably I will give you some time to do the exercise, and if you have any question, feel free to raise out accordingly. Treat it like an online class like this. Okay, so in the next 3 hours, I suppose in the next maybe 2 to 2.5 hours. So of course, the first part is the foundation and core concept, some theories in short. Then after that, we shall have this hands-on lab, and I only target on German, in case it's the first time to use, the Gemma is actually Google's open source. People always try to compare Gemma and Gemini. Okay, some people say that there's no difference, no much difference, but I personally believe that there's still much different because Gemini is a proprietary. They use it to earn money, whereas Gemma is open source. Okay, but the good thing is that as a developer, when we are using open source, we can fine tune here and there. Another question is also that then how about Gemini? Can we fine tune Gemini? Answer is yes. Internally inside the GCP or Google Cloud platform, right, we can actually fine tune Gemini as well. But the thing is, we don't really know what happened at the back, and also at the moment, the so-called model that is fine-tuned, right, they don't charge additional charge. But they may change it sooner or later. But at the moment, yes, there's no additional charge if we are using the new model that we fine-tune, the new Gemini model after fine-tuning. Whereas for Gemma, the good thing is, of course, 100% is free, and we are going to use a collab later on to just have the full free. Okay. Then some example here. All right, a quick repair here, because we want to link the original or generic or general LLM versus the fine-tune. So LLM here, right? Of course, you already have a massive training data, recognize all these things, and then to outcome, especially the text, and now it's extended to image and also even the video. But people might change the other terms like LVM, large video model. And then, in short, it's a deeper than deep learning. So we know that deep learning actually is extended from the typical regression model, and then it comes with all those weight and biases. So from all this, right, when you further extend it, and then we have a lot of internal all those, like example transformer, BERT, so on and so forth, and it come out its own as LLM. So basically, we can see that we can think that it's still like a deep learning model. Okay, so with that, right, it actually predict what the next word to answer, and then it will show you accordingly. And now the LLM, right, it comes the three main important parts whenever we want to deal with LLM. The first one is the proper prompt engineering. So proper prompt engineering is that we just ask, we give the scenario, we ask it, you are a smart professor in mathematics, so you know how to answer all those questions that are related to differentiation and integration, for example. Another one is that start from scratch. So that this part, right, my center there, right, is also doing this kind of research as well. So generally, I would say that we are building our own version of SLM, starting from scratch. So by using a certain framework, and then we build this SLM accordingly, targeted to the specific domain, which let's say, example, we are working with some HR company, so they like to insert their own data and then to put it. With that, it comes into the third part, which is something we want to show today. How about model fine-tuning? We are using existing LLM, or even the LLM with a smaller number of parameters identical to SLM. Then we fine-tune accordingly. Okay, so there is always a debate between these two. Starting from scratch, building from scratch, and also using existing SLM and then fine-tune accordingly. So I would say that especially for business application, normally fine-tuning is more preferred. Much faster, easier. You need to give a lot of data. You need to have all this technical hassle. Whereas from the R&D point, especially academic R&D, right, building from scratch, right, it might have a better research or novelty. If we in between, we might find out some new model or some methodology in terms of the algorithm, so on and so forth, and then we can create something new. That's the thing. So that dealing with industry, most of the time we actually encourage them, if they want to have a quick low-hanging fruit, then go for prompt engineering as a quick start. And if a prompt engineering cannot solve it, then only go to fine tuning. And normally we will try to talk to them that whether there is a need to fine tune the model or not, or actually it's just a prompt engineering. I give us some example here. Sometimes they say that, hey, actually, I have this, what they call it, my company has a lot of our internal policy one, we don't share one. So that how can the model understand all these things and then will directly talk to us like this? If let's say I have a chatbot designed for my new staff as an onboarding process. So can you help me to fine tune the model and then so that this model is smart enough just to answer our whatever HR matter, supply chain matter, leave application, so on and so forth. Okay, before moving to this fine tuning or something like this, right? Then I would suggest them that how about prompt engineering? Because the prompt engineering, we just upload the files and then write a proper prompt engineering, say that okay, refer to all these attachment and then understand it, and then after that also say that okay, only answer the questions that you understand. If the questions are beyond all these documents, then politely reject it. It may work well as well. And if a document is very huge, then we may just use RAG, retrieval augmented generative. Side story, RAG is a in the layman's term, right? RAG, we tend to call it as like a smart librarian. It's like a librarian because why? The library setup, right, is that when we have we go to library, we ask for what's that? For example, we want to know LLM. We ask the librarian, is there any book related to LLM? Based on all these keywords, the librarian will search, okay, where the location is. Is the cabinet 1 or record 1, and then the section 2, and then the whatever ID 3, and then book 4, something like this. So it gives all these index, and then as a user, we just go to that particular section, that particular book record self, and then take the book out. So RAG is also like this. It works with this LLM. Now the LLM is just as the user, and then the RAG help to manage all these things. And whenever someone asks, let's say example, the question is that what is our MC policy or the leave application policy, sick leave or MC, sick leave application policy. Then it will search for this using this all these keywords, search for the relevant info, and then do some processing, and then pass back to the whatever the users. Okay, so with that, right, it doesn't need fine tuning. Because again, that although fine tuning is looks like very fancy, but again, if we can use a low hanging fruit to solve it, right, actually we don't need to use a fine tuning to do it. Okay, but then it comes to a problem that can one model truly do it all? That is the thing. When we need a real specialist, not like just now. Actually, even just now they will say that the info retrieval using RAG, right, that one is not really a specialist. So we have to understand that why in this case. Like example, let's say lack of the niche terminology. There's a certain all these documents that whereby the current LLM cannot understand, and especially I like to highlight those with lower number of parameters. Those with a strong or high number of parameters, generally they don't have this problem. And another matter is that, of course, with all these, right, there is a paid version. Like example, if we just connect to Gemini or we just connect to the OpenAI, the newer version, right? Internally at the back end is also it consists of the very high number of parameters, and then generally they almost know everything. Okay. Another thing is that of course the outdated domain knowledge. Like sometimes when I talk to some healthcare consultant, right, there are new things, and then whereby this AI doesn't capture, because that all this new thing, it may happen just last 2-3 weeks, for example, and then the last 4 weeks, and this last 4 weeks, right, because the model was trained what they call it periodically, maybe the latest version was last 2 months, then it doesn't have all this info. Okay, insufficient context understanding. This one, right, it is extended to something that If you want to only have a specific kind of contextual understanding, in that sense, let's say example, if we always need to deal with something that whether a question is genuine or not, it comes with some, let's say the comment, sarcastic or something like this, we have to specifically train them. Then again, the question come back again. If like this, right, can I just use prompt engineering? I give some example also. Let it learn it. Answer is yes and no. When I say yes, it's because if they say the data we insert, right, is just a simple one, then it's okay. But if we have a lot of data and we really heavily need them to do this special task, then fine tuning is better. And of course, the generic response, this is something later the practical. I will show you some example. One of the example is we want them to answer it based on our format, in the format of JSON, and then just insert nicely, capture it nicely, so that later the computer, let's say example, data science modelers, data scientists, they can just continue to read the data directly from this JSON or structured data, and then to do the subsequent modeling already. Okay, because you know that raw text, right, or this LLM generator, they just provide the raw text. But now, if they say they provide in the format of the structured way like JSON or table, then it's much easier for the subsequent analytics. Okay, so with that, right, the rise of a specialist. This so-called specialist means a domain-specific LLM or fine-tuned LLM. We call it domain-specific. That is because that only the certain domain, we have additional info we want to put it for this particular domain. And then after that, we fine-tune the model. Fine-tuning more like the technical term. Domain-specific is more like a generic term. Basically, these two are similar. Okay, so the general purpose model that we have to further train them or so-called fine-tune. And again, why we don't really use train, right, is because literally, if all this data with all this additional data set we want to train, right, we have to build from scratch a large one, which is something that normally people don't prefer. Whereas fine-tune, right, is just based on the existing one, we just update or improve some of the parameters only. The analogy here is something like as a human, a very smart professor, this LLM is like a smart professor already, and then he just need to roughly listen to the briefing, then he knows already what to move next. They said the briefing is about the what they call it, the property layout in this shopping mall, for this shopping mall. Then he knows it already. Later he can walk here and there. He knows where to go already. He doesn't need to like restart learning everything, then only come to him. Okay, so the best knowledge and the domain training here, brain alignment, improve reliability, and of course there is a task automation, everything. Okay, so this subsequently, right, I'm sharing the real world example, AI in the clinical workflow. So this is I capture from the real use case like Google and Mayo Clinic, the real world implementation. Last time the Google partner with Mayo Clinic to implement the AI solution, and the entire clinical workflow, suppose that of course is not something that the generic or general purpose LLM knows it. So they have to insert all this workflow so that they understand. And it comes into two perspectives. First, if all this, whatever the new data set, right, whether Google can use it to put it as a part of the data for its general purpose LLM or not, which I would say most of the time, 99%, the enterprise won't want to share it out. Including our company when use Google Gemini, right? At the bottom, Google Gemini also mentioned that the data won't be used for their training. But with that, it means general purpose is still general purpose. They don't really know all this workflow, and that is a need to fine-tune the model. Okay, this is one of the example, and another example is more related to the finance and customer service. Why I put these two domain or two sectors, right? Because these two are quite common to use a fine-tuned model, or they require all these things, and they are a huge. If they say, for example, travel agency, they probably don't need it because that the exiting from the, let's say, the trip advisory, or this right, or this LM already crawl a lot of relevant data. Okay. And the finance here again, finance, we know that most of the time they don't really disclose their data as well, and they don't allow people to directly use their data to train as the general LLM. So Bloomberg GPT, this is part of it. They customize the model training from scratch. This one even the customize it from scratch, but then right, they also fine tune accordingly. So there is a specialized application just mainly focus on all those items because they don't need all those the rest of the things. Example, how to do the SPN or O-level questions or this thing. They just need to have the finance related information. So right now our center are doing although that one is starting from scratch, that part right in between we also need to fine tune as well. Those are related to I think it's HR and customers service. So another example here is a fine-tuned OpenAI technology with access to internal document, product, all these things together. That's something I mentioned just now, that all these documents, right, it come into two things. First, that if whether the company publish all these things as a public document or as an internal document. If an internal document, of course, general purpose LM doesn't know it. But on the other hand, come to the question I mentioned just now. Is it sufficient if I just use a proper prompt engineering plus RAG? Answer again is yes and no. If it's this one a lot and it's very specific, all these things, and you want the entire AI to like just answer this specific domain, you don't need to answer the rest, then probably the fine-tuning is still better. But that means that it requires all those advanced the talent with the advanced technical knowledge. And the quick low-hanging fruit solution will be just put the prompt engineering, say that okay, you only answer all these things, don't answer beyond, and then upload it using RAG. Anyhow, with that, of course, a fine-tune writer, it give an impressive result compared to the just a prompt engineering and RAG. So that is the part. Okay, so this is a little bit about business that perspective, why and when we need all these fine-tuning and also this domain-specific LLM. Hopefully now you have some idea about that. So next, right, let us move on to the practical, technical. So how fine-tuning work in the layman's term. So first of all, of course, we must have the foundation model, a pre-trained generalist LLM. Although the name is called as pre-trained, but it's something that right now what we can use on the spot, what we can use in the real for the real application. It's just that because we have a specific task and also requirement, we expect it to answer with a better and also more convincing way, and therefore we have to fine-tune. Then with that, we insert our own data. So later on the practical, right, we have a couple of the data set to put it inside. And honestly, to train it, right, we generally need a GPU to build it. And another thing is even GPU, right, if our domain data is huge, it's gonna take some hours or even days to train it, because the LM is simply just too huge. Okay, and what it does here, right, the model parameter, as mentioned just now, right, normally when we say about deep learning, right, maybe our first impression maybe is a few thousand parameters, whereas you can imagine that for linear regression, y equals mx plus c, it only has two parameters, that is M and C, gradient and y-intercept. But when we move to deep learning, it may have a few thousand, a few 10,000, something like that. And go to LLM, which is measured in the unit of billion parameters. And we just adjust so-called the surface some parameters only so that you understand this part. So therefore, it's like we are enrolling a genius or a very smart professor in a specialty school. So the pre-trained LLM, which is already something usable for general purpose, like example, JAMA. We can generally ask anything, everything. And then now we retrain them how to write to be a special or expert level of the curriculum, just focus on, let's say, medical school or law school. We must have a specific domain. Then only we have to use this fine-tuning method or process. Okay, so remember, fine-tuning doesn't build a new brand. In other words, it doesn't really start everything from scratch and build its own LLM, but it just, based on the current one, it further improve. Okay, next, the fine-tuning workshop. First, workflow, sorry. Of course, I'll start with a pre-trained network. But I choose something the good one, and it has quite a number. I think nowadays online it has already a lot. Today here I will try to focus more on Google's like JAMA. Okay, so that I think because everyone knows Google is easier. And then prepare a domain-specific data set. So later I'm going to show you some default data set and some our own user created data set to see it. Of course, the last one is to train. So in this case, we practically what we need to do, in addition to these three steps, of course, some background setup we need it as well. Okay, everything we can do it using Colab. And if later on you want to use your own Jupyter number, for example, feel free to do it as well. Okay, so therefore here, your model is as good as your data, so it still follow the concept that garbage in, garbage out. One of the practical session that I'm going to share with you is about the NL to SQL, natural language to SQL SQL language. Natural language here, it means, let's say in English. So user just need to type English and then he try to answer the SQL. And because I just fine tune it using some very few only, about 500 data set only, all about creating database, creating table, the SQL, so that I give an example about this. So once I fine-tune it, after fine-tuning it, now I ask some question. All those are business part. Like example, how many staff in this department, in let's say HR department? Then in the end, it still create department table. Why? Because garbage in, garbage out. The data set I gave him, or I gave it to this LLM, during the fine-tuning process, it's all about creating a table, creating a column, inserting new data. It's nothing about the, what you call it, the query, answering the query. So that once I fine-tune, now it becomes something like, I just focus on this, I just focus on this, and then therefore it doesn't answer the rest already. So this one still very important that you really need to see the data, and with that, it is very good because if you really tune nicely according to the data, and same thing vice versa, your data really can support whatever you want to fine tune, then it will work almost 99.99% perfect compared to you just use the LLM. Because when we use the LLM, even sometimes we prompt it using a prompt engineering, it will still give us additional info or something like this. Okay, so let's say example, we have the instruction, input, output, something like this, the standard, the instructions or the prompt response. Okay. So therefore, of course, a small data set is far beyond the 1,000 or messy one. But to be honest, a small data set, when you train it, of course, you still depends on the content and context of this small data set. Okay, So two paths to specialization, full fine-tuning. Basically, the full fine-tuning here means like the retrain already, the full retrain. Indeed, there's no full fine-tuning this term. I just put it like this. It's like a full retrain, which normally people don't do it at all. If the people to read, there is like a different version. They say like last time Gemini upgraded from 2 to 2.5. So update whatever the multi-millions of the weight or parameters in the model. Basically rewrite everything, rewire everything. Whereas the more common one is the PEFT. Okay, the PEFT is a generic term, parameter efficient fine-tuning. In other words, it only fine-tune a certain layer, in other words, only a small number of parameters. And the most common one is LoRa. So this LoRa is a low rank adaptation. It's just a term. Okay, we just need to add a little bit information to the brain, that's it, or change a little bit. If last time used to do that, it's now change a bit, that's it. And this is more efficient, low cost, and is a one type of a supervised. So the LoRa is also extended to unsupervised. But today, context here, right, we will only touch the suitable supervised version. In other words, we will really insert the data to pass. Okay, this is standard question, this is standard answer, and what the instruction is. And therefore, it try to learn. And next time when there's a standard question like this, it knows standard answer is like this. Okay. So in that sense, right, the last piece of the work here, the deck here is that, of course, we are trying to use the LoRa, but just to clarify also, in the world of networking, there is something LoRa 1, which is something before the era of 5G. So the LoRa we mentioned here, right, we are discussing here, right, is different for the LoRa 1 that in the field of networking and also telco connection. Okay. LoRa right here is that actually in make it so-called, there's a so-called term that the democracy of AI is because everyone can use it. We don't need the super big data center to do it. Indeed, just a free collab, we can do it already. You can practice it everything and speed and agility, portability, because the model is tiny, and therefore we normally don't need to use what they call it a big number of parameters. We use a small one. Since that normally for fine-tuning, we want to focus on the specific area, it won't be as large as the full functional multi-purpose LLM. So therefore, 99% of the benefit you can get it, but with the 1% of the cost. So that's it for this, the short briefing or the theoretical explanation here, and we shall move on to the practical. So I give a half a minute like this. You all get ready with your laptop, everything, okay, or the monitor, extra monitor, and we shall move on very soon. So again, this website, right? It will be available. It is available 24/7. So anytime when you need, right, you just come here to put it. And how I design all this thing, right, is also by using Gemini AI. In short, I use the AI help me to come out some canvas and also the code, all this thing, and then to design it out and insert it accordingly. And then I use some agentic AI also to help me to put it, design the deck and also the material. So once you are ready, right, just go to here, open Collab Lab. So again, today is already, I think, if not mistaken, is the 4th or 5th session. And I assume that you all already know how to use Collab and also some with ideas, some fundamental Python programming, all this thing. Okay. So, but no matter how, I like to introduce a bit on this Collab. Let me drag a bit. Okay. So in this case, First, there is a final, make sure that you enter this one, right? Before doing anything, just create the file, save a copy in Drive. Create a file, save a copy in Drive, so that you can already use my material during this practical session. You can move on. Creating a copy. Okay, so just ensure that don't mess up anything. Now I change it my name. You all feel free to change to your name as well, because just now that copy was mine, and then so you cannot edit anything. Now this is yours. You can do anything, everything. This one I forgot to link just now because in the end I use the deck here already, so don't need it. But we are going to move on from here. So first, let me introduce a little bit about Collab. But it's just about it's a Gemini feature. Okay, there is a Gemini here, but I suppose this Gemini is only if you subscribe the Gemini feature. Then there is one here. But for the free one, you can see at the bottom here, that is one. To not disturb or alter the entire UI here or entire content here, right? Let us create a file, new notebook in Drive. For new notebook in Drive. So that there's a play some game here. Quick one. Okay. This is the clean version. Okay. Nothing inside. And as mentioned just now, right? Let me on my first there is this button, but I think that only for excuse me, only for those who subscribe to Gemini Pro has it. But on the other hand, you can see that by default it provides free for us this one and this one. Okay. So the one right here, right, is when we create, we can just write our sentence and then ask it to write a certain code. Let's say example. Suppose I don't really know what map packages is, math or mathematics package is. I just ask it like this. Give me, maybe I zoom in also a bit. Okay, give me some examples on how to use a math package. Then it will auto generate this. Import the math all this thing, whatever, print accordingly. It shows the result. So if I follow, I just run it, right? It comes out whatsoever. Okay, so it's very good for learning purpose, and then what I call it, treat this like your virtual tutor, AI tutor. And of course, it's not only here, it's also our AI programmer, everything. And next, right, is this. You can ask any question. You might not need to follow me to this one. You can simply ask anything as long as it's related to the programming, you will answer it accordingly. Whereby, after you run all these things together, right, you can just click this one. It either generate the code, just like it generated already. So now I am asking, I want to ask it to explain to me the code. So wait for a few seconds, it comes out. Okay, by the way, someone is waiting in the lobby, the committee, right? See whether it's from your list or not. Okay, so please explain all these things. So you see that, okay, selected code import method is something, blah, 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 everything. Square root, sine wave, so sine function, everything. Okay, that's the part. And another one, right, the most so-called powerful one is actually the bottom one. This one. Basically, right, especially if I believe that some of the participants are students, I had to say the following the so-called say the briefing here, right, I had to tell, but I have to tell also. It's because that as a lecturer, we will hope that student can learn everything to put into the brain or this thing, right? Instead of just using AI come out everything. But actually, if let's say you are attending the, let's say, programming course, and then the data science course, and machine learning course, BDA, so on and so forth, right? You want to do your assignment. This one, almost I can say that it can finish within a couple of minutes to complete everything for us. Hence, I said just now that I said that I had to say this. But on the other hand, I still have to tell you because in the work environment, in a typical workplace, we don't need the people like to spend a few days to do something if the AI can solve it within 10 minutes. So I tried before something like this, the typical data science, right? All this thing. I insert the let's say CSV, or else I can just go here, link to my Google Drive or Google BigQuery whatsoever. Everything do it nicely, connect it can read the data, fetch the data, acquire the data whatsoever, and then after that, right, do some processing for me. So the typical data science, whatever it is, then start with some data the crawling or data the gathering, and then the data pre-processing, modeling, prediction, and then after that, what's the feature importance, sharp analysis, or those things. He basically built it for me. But it takes some time also. Although I said 10 minutes, that is how I code it, how I ask the prompt. But when it runs it depends on the size of the data set. It may run 1 or 2 hours. Then I just go up, have a copy. Then when I come back, settle already. I can submit already. Okay. So this is how beautiful and also how evil AI is. Right. So that is the part. And now, once all right, let us go back to just now. Sorry, because there is this button. Let me adjust. Make sure you go back to your personal one here. First of all, try to ensure that you change your run type here. Again, if I'm too fast, runtime type. Ensure that you use GPU hardware. By default, we just use the NVIDIA T4 GPU is more than enough. Of course, if you want, right, you can just subscribe to 800. The ones I need to purchase. Okay, 800 is one of the very powerful GPU. So from the runtime, change runtime, make sure it's Python 3, T4 GPU. Then since now we are going to subsequent module 2, 3, and 4 respectively, I'd like to do some demo. But then the first is, of course, is the environment setup. And again, even the deck here, right, all the content here, I actually build it using Gemini, using AI as well. By the way, it doesn't mean that I'm I'm a salesman from Google or what? No, I'm not a salesman from Google, but it's just that since all these tools are free, we just use it. All right. So this module to demonstrate how to fine tune, but then before that, right, we might need to do some tool and also environment setup. And most of the time, of course, we need to use GPU. And with that just scroll down, we try to run this code. This code, right, we actually to check the NVIDIA the driver and also GPU, whether it's already has been installed into the Google Colab. The only bad thing about Colab is that Colab is not meant for enterprise version. So that even for the enterprise one, you might still need to log to, like, let's say, use the cloud feature, whatsoever, AWS, Colab, GCP or Alibaba, so on and so forth. And then, but on the other hand, also like another thing is that even the Colab, right, there is a Colab enterprise version. The Colab enterprise version, like those are especially the data set and all those, right, is everything inside the GCP, so that is more secure only for enterprise use. feel free to play with it also. So GCP, although beyond the today's topic, right? When you subscribe it, right, for the first time, if let's say you're using email for the first time, that is a Gmail only, then you will get a 1,200 free token, equivalent to 1,200 that you can do a lot of things. Okay. Whereas the general college here is a free one. Okay, my one already cannot currently use it. Okay, then I have to connect without GPU. I think it's because of my one is already over. But if that is right, let me try it, because at last night when I tried, it still can. I think they calculate the number of times which one something beyond me. Last time actually when I tried it, everything is still alright. But yours, I think for the first time, it should be there. Still got, I suppose. So you can see that if my one, right, compared to the original code here, it has all these things. Okay. But now it doesn't have already, because I can no longer use this GPU unless I pay it. I believe that this one also beyond my knowledge. I believe that it has an internal calculator to count me how many times I use. Once I finish using the quota, then stop already. Something beyond my knowledge. Okay. Step 2, installing the required libraries. And because now I cannot link to the GPU, again, the last session, which is just last time when I checked everything, right? Normally, one night before the workshop, right, I will try to check everything's all right. That time, right, I could still use a GPU for free. So that now, since I cannot use, right, maybe some part of it, right, it may be slow. First of all, you need to install all these things. And also, this is a bad thing about Collet, because for the free Collet here, right, it was stop and remove all those memory every roughly 12 hours. So that for temporary use, all these things is fine. If again you want to use for permanent deployment, right, it's better still deploy to the cloud, everything. So here, we might need to wait for a couple of minutes, pit install, a couple of things. The Q here stands for quiet. So we have transformer, dataset, accelerate, so on and so forth. And here, transformer, because we want to load the gamma or the JAMA model and tokenizer dataset so that we can use it later on. PEFT, the name itself already tells us the thing just now I mentioned, parameter efficient fine-tune library, whereby we will use LoRa later on. TRL stands for Transformer Reinforcement Learning Library. Basically later, because we will have one trainer to do the supervised fine-tuning. So we need this TRL to do the training. Okay, then bit and byte, bits and bytes. This is actually, we have the quantized format to save the memory. So in this case, right, there is another thing. One thing that we normally commonly mention about is about the number of parameters. But on the other hand, other than that, right, there is another about quantization. Basically, it's still dealing with, if the parameter is dealing with a mathematical level or so-called the software level, this quantized format, right, is dealing with a hardware level. Although everything in there is still about hardware, but quantized is more about hardware, that how many bits we want to use. That example, later we are going to use the 4-bit. And there is a research talking about, let's say, 1 bit or even less than 1 bit. So that I think recently my students just proposed something, and then we are about to submit for a research paper is about, I think it's 1 bit. Okay, so it install everything, and while waiting for it installing all these things, right, let's just go to the step 3 as well. I'm not sure whether you all have this or not, so I start from scratch. In order to access the JAMA, right, we need to get all those cut accordingly, and we need to upload this. So that here, right, you need to go to this JAMA model card, log in your account under the Kaggle account. In case you don't have Kaggle, please register as well. It's free. Everything is free today, except for the GPU just now, no longer free. Okay. Then after that, right, okay, this behavior is also following the conflict. GC FS as a spec but you have, I think it's because again, there's yesterday my one, I need to refresh the whole thing. But it's okay, let's continue here. So here, right, go to the JAMA model card. Let me open it. You just need to click the Kaggle. Okay, so by default, because I already logged in, so that what I want to show, first of all, if you do not log in, of course, you won't be able to see something like this. And if you manage to log in and this is your first time doing this one, if I think some of you maybe it's new to you, then you need to click the request access, whereby the request access is somewhere here, I believe. But now because I already have it, I already give everything, I allow I so-called set the terms and condition, I agree already, then by default it's already like this. So I don't need to do it again. And then unfortunately, I can't show you the very clean setup also. Then with that, once you have everything here, you just need to go to your account setting, create a new token there, right, to download your Kaggle JSON API key. So this one might take some time, especially now it's the virtual class, and I can't really go to your screen to see it what it is. So if you face any technical problem, right, maybe feel free to talk to me after this or what it is. So here, right, once you go there, right, you probably can see and download it for the Kaggle. So again, your username, and how to get your username? Just click it. Okay. So this is my username. So that you create your profile here, you should be able to go to your own one right here, and then after that, which is here. So here, the small one here. And then after that, right, you just follow this link accordingly, the kaggle.com, your name, account. You should be able to see all this thing and download it accordingly. So after download everything, right, I will pause a moment here just in case for you to follow, especially for a new one without Kaggle account. So create a Kaggle account, then after that, go here, get everything. Pause a moment. Okay, there's resume. I assume that you're already okay. So what you need to do right next is just that this is ask you to upload the Kaggle JSON file, so that you should have it already, I believe. So you can see that once you click just now, right, upload it, and it will save it, everything. That's it. And of course, let it run everything. This one is fine. So basically, it's at the Linux level or Linux plugin to ask it to create all this folder accordingly. So then after that, right, there is another important stage to do it, because again, today here, everything is free. Everything, therefore, we need to have different resources to help us. But on the other hand, that means we need to log in here and there. So there is a Hugging Face setting page right here. You just click it. step number 4, logging into your Hugging Face. So the same thing. If you don't have Hugging Face, you might need to register it. So go to your Hugging Face. First, of course, you need to log in or sign up if you don't have, or else you just log in. And then after that, right, go to this page, you create a new token. If let's say for the clean one, today one, make sure that you put the right. Actually, fine grain is also possible, but let's try to use the right. So you can see that I have a couple of all these fine tune, try, test, all these things, a couple, and I use it. I actually clean my sections all here already. So now it's all about a few hours ago only. Anyhow, you try to create, and what you need to do, right? Let's say after you creating it, the value is something like this. Always start with HF, blah, blah, blah. Same thing, I pause a moment here. So again, just I try to give more time for you to create your own Hugging Face account, and then after that to set your access token. Make sure that it's a right rule. Then after that, right, normally we don't want to hard code whatever the token here and there. So what we need to do, right, for Collab, there's a good thing about is that there is a password or secret management tool here. The key is here. So what you need to do, right, is just go to left hand side here, right, click the key. Then you see I have a lot of whatever Databricks, Google API, OpenAI, DeepSeek also. So because we have many things, and then but even though many things, I try to use the free resources. Add new secret. To synchronize our step, you just put it HF underscore token, all in capital. Then your respective key. So that once you created this one, then subsequent step, right, you should be able to do it. I pause a moment. Okay, I repeat just now. Okay, so once I assume that you already set it up, everything with a new access token with a right mode. And then after that, right, you need to save your passcode. Make sure that you use this one. So go to this key icon here, and then set the new key or secret here. The name is HF underscore token with the whatever the long series of the password. And then only you try to click run. Run it here, right? It will ask you to grant access. Then just click yes. This grant access means that you allow. Okay, I click grant access. You allow here to use here. Actually, I feel a bit weird also, but this is how Google works. Even to allow this collect what they call it, the code cell, right? To access the password here, right? You also need you to grant access. Actually, it's still collect within the collect environment. Okay, now it runs successfully. So the step number 5, right, is loading the best model and tokenizer. So this is again the last step of this setting up the model, okay, the best model and tokenizer. And again, we are using the 4-bit quantization via the bits and bytes. So it will reduce it, and it's therefore it's suitable with the free call of the GPU. Although again, my GPU also finished quota already. Let's try it. Make sure that we just use this Gemini 2B. 2B stand for Gemma 2B. 2B stand for 2 billion only. So it's just a 2 billion instruction tune model. We don't even use the large one. If not, we have to extend our GPU to memory size. Then we just run it. While running it, I also explain a bit. I hope that I believe that you already know transformer a bit already. Basically, in short, transformer is a deep learning dealing with a library dealing with deep learning and even LLM, and it has many things here: auto model, the bit and bytes, the things that we want to do. Since we put them here, and when we put it here, right, the configuration here we set a few. I would say this is almost a default setting for if we were to use a 4-bit. Then, of course, we want to put a pre-trained network, everything inside, and whereby the pre-trained network here, because our model ID just now we choose under Google Gemma. So Google Gemma actually already integrated into this Hugging Face. So have it. And of course, everything we also put it, and it actually will take some time. It will take some time to do this one. Hence, again, for collab, right, is not suitable for deployment or enterprise use because now, okay, I run it, everything is here. After a couple of hours later on, once I run use it over like this, right, the problem, because it will remove the memory. Once it remove memory, all this thing I need to download again. I need to do it again. And sometimes I just say, my GPU finished already. I cannot use, right? So I will say that nothing is nearly 100% free. Okay, once everything, if you run successful, of course, now I believe it's still running. It's not due to internet, but it's actually it's a huge file, and then you can see how many gig here. So that it require all this, and then write success. While waiting for the rest everything, right, I will pause a moment, consider as a short break as well. Maybe we shall just come back maybe around 11:55 like this. So that to ensure that all just now you all can follow accordingly. Thank you. I will come back around 11:55. In between, take your coffee whatsoever, toilet break, and also ensure that all the code runs successfully. All right. Hi, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back to check again. Can you all hear me? Is the connection still there? Just want to check her. Hi, can you all hear me? Just want to check, especially the committee there. My test. And also, can you all see my screen? I suppose from my side, I can see it. All right. So from here, right, just now because actually, while during the short break just now, right, I went to subscribe this what's it, the credit here for a bit, a few USD, so that I can continue the work today here. Just like I told you that actually my GPU service already out of token, right, out of the quota. I already fulfilled over quota already, so that I need to purchase a bit. So I just purchase and rerun everything, so that it's still taking some time. You can see everything okay. Oh yeah, now finally finished everything. So once you see all these things, everything done already, like it means that it has been successfully install everything, set up everything settled already. Okay, so the next right is that of course most important, the module 3 and module 4. So module 3 here is really we want to fine tune the German with the Aurora. So this is the most important part. Now we will just use the data set here. What we want to do here is about the SQL. Okay, I change it a bit. Okay, before this, I was trying to use the create context, and I use it, but then I realized that it is not that great. As I mentioned that because it's about SQL create, and then therefore everything is related to SQL create. And when I ask a query something about how many what's that? They say example how many staff on this department, it can't answer well. Nothing wrong. That time, right? That is because that I use the create one, and then I change another this data set which is wiki SQL. It has many things, including the select SQL. The select is something like the query, right? And it worked perfectly. So next, right? I like you to run this one, the data set here, and then just to make sure that you put it. And I highlight here one thing, important thing here. I don't really run everything. The data set is huge, although because at the time, right, it might take more than a few hours or even days. It depends on the speed and also the GPU size, all these things you use, whether during the train later on. And then here, I just put it roughly randomly to choose the 1,000. But because we all use the same seed, right, even though it's so-called random, that random, we all are still having the same random number. Then after a short while, okay, if there's anything that is right, you may just put it yes. Do you wish to run the custom code? Answer is yes. You put a Y here. Put it. It's gonna take some time also. So from now onwards, right, quite a number of all these practical section, it might take a couple of minutes to do everything. It's just identical when you do everything, the data, right? All these are identical to statement, which is something related to select SQL, this thing, the data set. particularly you can Google search or what wiki SQL is all about. Then that it learned it, but only for 1,000 samples. So that's the example, which some of week that had an attendance larger than 55,000 on this 1986. So when user asks this question, the corresponding answer is, it has all this result at the back. You can see it's quite long already here until the end. Everything. So it has all this. All right. So next, right, we have to format the prompt. This one here, right, what we're trying to show here, right, is more about the prompt format here. So that here we try to create a simple function here and then try to give the prompt, which is something like, given a question, write a SQL to answer it, whereby the question is inputted from the certain question, of course, and the SQL query is certain whatsoever query, select something from something. And this function is mapped to every single entry inside the data content. We have 1,000, right? So the data don't map here, it means that all these are function, that means that this one, the so-called function to format the prompt, right? It is applied to every single entry. So we just run it. This one should be fast, whereby you can see the result here already. I mean, this is just to check on here, what is the data, what the data is. So the first data here after formatter, right? It always, because always the instruction is like this. So whenever we do this kind of the fine tuning, right, it come into the part with the instruction, just like your prompt engineering, right? And then after that, the example question and answer. We need to give this one. So you can imagine that just now during the theory session, I told you about the prompt engineering, right? Nothing wrong if you use a prompt engineering. Inside the prompt engineering, you can also say that I want you to always answer something like this. Even whenever there is a question, then the expected outcome is like this. Do it. Give if you have 1,000 data set, you give it 1,000 times. Ask it to read. It is also possible. Okay, so that again, therefore with that, right, fine tuning, prompt engineering, and start from scratch. All three has its own specific usage and also functionality, and they are complement to each other. There's no like so-called what's that, the one way or one method that outperform the rest a lot. Maybe the one I can say is that start from scratch, their part is really too advanced and also time taken. Okay, now the next, right, we configure the LoRa configuration. So in this case, right, there are a couple of technical terms that we need to put it. But as mentioned just now, right, basically, you know that all the, what's it, the deep learning, right, if for the simple visualization, right, it has a multiple connector here and there, everything, right, connect here and there, right. So LoRa, how it works, right, is that it just insert a small trainable matrix, so-called adapter here, to a specific layer to have a, just like some way the layer here, and then a specific matrix inside only, and it changes only this part. Therefore, it doesn't fine-tune the entire parameter. Again, fine-tune entire model, it means retrain throughoutly, but it doesn't do that. So here, right, we have some coding at the bottom, I think. Yeah, here. While waiting, we just run it first, but then we come back to some description here. R equals at is actually the R here stands for the rank, and that is something related to the dimensionality of a row rank. Generally, we try to take a balance point. Again, row rank means that faster, but in terms of the accuracy, expressiveness, it may not be there. LoRa alpha, this is just a scaling factor. It's normally proportional to this. Again, the same thing. Higher the LoRa alpha, it gives the more weight to the LoRa update. But honestly, this one, right, if you ask, right, why 16, why not the rest of number? Why 8, why not the rest of number? There is no fixed answer. It's really just like the neural network when we train, right? Why you put 1,000 layers? Why don't you just put 999 layers? Why don't you just put 1,001 layers? It's very tough to answer that. Same thing when we do the data modeling, right? Why you train 1 million data set? Why not 1,000,001 data set? Data entry. The one is no answer to that. Okay, then the target module and all this, right? It has all this what they call it, how all these LoRa adapters injected accordingly. So it target on the query side, key side, value. These are all the common one. Query, key, value, and outcome projection layers. It has a couple of layers, just I told you, right? So generally, all these are the main layers to be so-called what's that altered to be targeted. So LoRa dropout. So dropout is another layer for the typical deep learning as well. So basically, it serves as a regularization. So that regularization here is that we prevent overfitting. All these are technical jargon, but again, if you have any question, all these things we can discuss later on. But it's good to understand fundamental machine learning and fundamental deep learning before moving to LLM and fine tuning. Okay, bias at the moment, right, we set it none. Okay, so just now I run it, everything run it already. Now we need to set the trainer. The trainer here means that it's just like the supervised learning, the typical, they say last time we have what they call it, like regression or random forest to do the model fit or something like this, right? And here, right, for the LM, we have a trainer as well, but this is supervised fine-tune trainer from the TRL, and then it will do everything here. So now the output directory, I just simply put it as a JAMA SQL fine-tune. And then with some parameter here, this one you can see is a typical deep learning. Again, if you ask me why the running rate is 2 to the power minus -4, why not 2.1? There's no answer for that. It's just a guess number or random initialized number. So just run it. Same thing, it might take some time. Then a little bit about the exponential also. From the, of course, from the transformer import this one. Basically, you know that because we want to define and also store all those hyperparameter settings or this thing. And this is the trainer we need to use. It's identical to if we were to talk about the scikit-learn model.fit. Then all the argument inside, whereby it comes with a few. Output directory is fine. It's actually user-defined one. You can put your own one, no issue. The name is just anything you can put. Let's say I love Python. Okay, number of training reports. This one is per GPU, and then one time how many batch we want to train. Learning rate. And this is the training progress, like the loss that should be logged. Everything. Okay, this is a bit special. The last one is a bit special. I like to highlight. By default, right, we don't even need to put the report to something or what it is. But typically, from this one, right, it has one service, we call it a WMB, whereby we need to register and create another one, link it. But for today's purpose here, right, we don't really need that. That is optional. But with that, right, in the coding, right, we have to put this report to none. If not, right, later it will activate this WMB. So if you want to try later on, right, you may just delete it accordingly. Okay, after everything is done, then right, we can start learning already. And again, this is the thing I mentioned that it might take a few minutes or even a few hours or even a few days. But just now, right, we only limit it to 1,000 only, 1,000 data, right, entry. So that if you see it here right now, it's running, it might take already like 10 minutes. Yesterday, when I tried it, right, it took also right around 7 or 8 minutes at least. So there else, I just wait for a while. Okay. While running all this, right, I do a recap again, the overall what we did just now. Generally, I hear hopefully it's quite clear already. There is a module 2. That is something about the backend setting, everything. So that you do the model, you do the tokenizer, so on and so forth, everything. So the module 3, right, we now really want to fine tune it. We put the data, then we format it, configure it, and do it. I would say this is a typical SOP already. So once everything is all right, it's just identical to a model.fit, but we call it trainer.train. And then wait for a couple of moments. Now it still needs about 12 minutes to complete everything. While waiting for it to save the time, we don't wait at this. Actually, normally if it's a face-to-face, I will just walk around and then see anyone needs a problem, needs help or something like this. But here, right, since it's online like this, right, you all may just run it at your own, and any question, right, you can just discuss with me offline after this. Okay. But we just try to see that what the step 6 is while waiting for it. Basically, this so-called the payoff is actually the entire to test it. You run it first. You just see the whatever the existing result, the result that I already pre-save it. So what happened here, right, is that now you can define a new question after assuming that you have trained it, right? But like I say, you run it first. You just wait for the training process to be completed. Then we format it accordingly, just like last time, just now, the roughly half an hour ago, and then create a pipeline for the whatever, pass everything and print the result. This it shows how it works. So here, right, what happened here, right, is that you can see it here from transformer import pipeline, import dot whatsoever, okay. Then here, right, let's say example, a new question is how many head of department are older than 56? Suppose the last time 55 was the retirement age, right? So we want to know that how many heads are all those are so-called the retired people, retired maybe to continue the contract or something like this. Then the prompt here is still something similar, right? A SQL to answer the question or this thing. And then with that, right, we try to take a look. Hence, just I ask you not to run this one so that you can still see the result. While waiting for it to run, right, let us try to see the result here. You can see that, okay, given the schema whatsoever, write the SQL query and so on. So how many heads of the department? So select count from here. It can answer. Okay, although this is just because this is just a quick demo with a very limited number of the data and also not so unique, whereby you might want to ask this one, even now I just ask a typical program, it can give you also answer is yes, definitely. With the what's that more and more advanced all these GenAI, LLM, right? Even without the fine tuning, it can actually answer. And the next question probably is that this one is a still generic one. But what if I want to have my own personal one, the company database? Okay, the department is not defined as a VEPT, it's a daily department because every company has its own database, its own columns, its own tables with its own names. And when come to here, right, actually there are two approaches. We have some industry project and to develop all these things, right? We are exploring two what they call it, the approaches as well. First, of course, is that if directly connect to the database, you and also you understand all the database, the metadata, all these things, it can do it directly. Everything. Just need to pass all those. The second one is even better, but more technical, which is fine-tuning like this, right? You collect all the data, you give it a writer instead of the generic statement, because just now remember the data set it consists of question and SQL code, statement, SQL code, natural language SQL code. So in this case, right, if they say there's an identical question, something like this, right, when they say the department or what like this, right, then you actually will try to give all those because in your preset SQL, you already give all those names already. So it will be much more helpful. Then it will really give it. So therefore, for demo purpose here is still relatively, you might think it's still a bit generic or general. but depends on the data you feed in. And as I mentioned to you just now, right, there is no unique method that outperform the rest. Like example here, fine tuning doesn't mean that fine tuning is a super compared to proper prompt engineering setup. It depends how we use it. So here a little bit about the exponential as well from transformer in pop pipeline, right? Okay, it provides just a high level to use the subsequent things. Okay, next, right? I think this one is just a generic one. It's all right. Suppose, right, face-to-face hands-on, right? I provide this one to you, but online one, you all can treat it later after the lunch or whatsoever, right? Today is weekend, right? You'll just try to do the hands-on lab here. Okay, so this one, right, is actually now you will be the so-called AI trainer. You're gonna do something is that now you use your same German model, but try to train using this data set. It has over 15,000 instruction and response page generated by human. So that you want to train this AI to understand all this. So all you need to do is repeat just now the whole thing here. You just create a new text or code cell accordingly, and then run it accordingly. Similarly, if you have time, you can just directly train over 15,000, but I doubt it honestly, because it's gonna take quite some time. You can just use the 500 random, like just now the example I gave was 10,000, 1,000 random data entries or rows. You can use that to build your own. Okay, the last section here, right, I want to put it right, is that the bonus track. Again, I move on all these things because that still need it to run, right? I think it still need, now it already override. Still need about 6 minutes. You also maybe also plus or minus, you only can finish everything. Okay, so just let it run it, but without wasting too much time, I will just move on. I actually prepare a special bonus tracker here. Same thing, it's gonna take some minutes to or some time to perform everything. Because all the while, right, I also receive the feedback sometimes when we organize this kind of workshop or something like this, right? We tend to use the generic or the so-called preset data set. Like example, what's it, the iris data set, wine data set. Whereas when it comes to all this, right, also again all the default data set. Is there any customized or user-defined data set so that for all these workshop, I will normally try to use first is of course the default data set, preset data set, and then after that so-called the own data set here. And because again for the simplicity, so actually we can just upload it, no issue, and then just use the pd.read CSV. But here I just put directly so-called a very simplified CSV data. You might have heard something like what's it, unpaid ringgit pay or something like this. Whereas here, right, I'm using something German pay. So in this case, everything is a synthetic data. I use what's it, the AI to generate all this dummy PII. Nothing is real. In case you found out there's a such thing, right? It's not correct. Right? Example, you can see the mobile phone number is like this. Okay, there's no such thing. Anyway, it's a quite a Malaysia context. What happened here, the background is that this is a customer data set, very for what they call it structurized one. It comes with customer name, phone number, address. I should use this one. Customer name, phone number, address, request a text, what kind of category, and the summary. So we like that whenever a new statement is inserted to this model, right? Model can help us, this LLM, fine-tune LLM, can help us to restructure, organize it using based on this format. That's early of the day, right? I told you that we hope that one of the fine-tuned LLM, right? The purpose of doing or purpose of fine-tuning the LLM is that to provide us a very structured kind of the format. based on the raw text like this. So it learns a bit here, although just a bit here, right? Actually, you already able later, right? You just send your own, you manage to do it accordingly. Your raw text, then you can put it accordingly. It will be very helpful for all those, what they call it, subsequent analytics and also data modeling. So this is a default data set. So now I use a PB read CSV to read it accordingly. Then yeah, I have this data set, no longer the preset data set. Then like just now, everything's similar. I load the GeoMa2B, I defined all these 4 bits or whatever, run the model, everything, load it out. Same thing. Now our task is what? Given the customer request, we generate a structured JSON format summary so that can store into a computer database or something that is easier. Then after that, people want to do analytics much faster. So now format GeoMa pay. I use the dummy get pay or what they call it, fintech pay. And then okay, extract the key information and then follow the format accordingly. First, there's a customer request, there's a certain response, follow accordingly. Next, just like just now also, configure the LoRa and the trainer. So the LoRa, similar, 16.8.0.05, and here I put it 0.05, all the 4. Okay, training argument, the output as mentioned that is just a raw text that we can put anything. Now, in this case, I put GeoMa pay fine tune and all these whatever it is. So at last, starting fine tuning. This is the most important code, trainer train, so that we initialize the training process. Again, the same thing you're gonna take, because this data set relatively smaller, maybe it take about 3 to 4 minutes. Compared to just now that one, I think about 15 minutes. And fine tune, it is just all the, what's it, the checkpoint, everything settled already, right? Now let's give a try testing. Okay, this is one of the new requests. Hi, I am David Lee. My phone number is this. I live here at Jalan Terawi, Bangsa. So I realized that there's one transaction from this dummy company, but actually I didn't make it. Can you help me to dispute? This is about customer service. As I told you just now, the customer service. So we have all these things, and then you can see that this is a raw text. So all these are raw text, right? Suppose when go to this fine-tune model, right? What will happen is that same thing, we format nicely accordingly. This is just like the pre-processing when we have a training set, the testing set, we need to follow those training sets as well. Then after that, we try to see the result, which you can see here. This was a previous run or executed result. Again, the instruction is extract accordingly, provide a JSON summary. Everything is the same. So now this is so-called the example. And now this is a result. My name is David D, just now I told you, right? The outcome of this GenAI, fine-tune GenAI, fine-tune LLM, customer name, it managed to understand and then to insert it accordingly. The phone number, the issue. Now this issue, because it's categorical variable, is transaction dispute. The detail is unverified transaction from crew gadget. So that later, whenever you want to do some analytics like business intelligence dashboard, or you want to do all these things much faster and much easier. And most important is that this is open source. With just only 2 billion, it can do everything that is nicely for us. Okay, so what is the special part of this fine-tuning? Of course, we want it to know the new skill and gain the new skill set, and also to establish a certain behavior. In this case, right, is that we want it to know how to extract data, but then following something like what they call it, certain SOP in this case, which is that it has to adhere by this format. So in short, right, this kind of fine tuning, right, we put it. Okay, so what happened here is that suppose, right, if we use especially the older model or else those with the few parameters, right, maybe you will put something like this, or this thing. But what you need, right, is all this. And just how you actually solve it, it provides this kind of thing. Of course, again, the question arises, if we especially currently the new one, right? What if I want it to, I just use the proper prompt engineering, can I do all these things? Answer is yes and no. Because if they say all these things is just like this one, the example shown here is so simple, right? Actually, you don't even need to fine tune. You just put the prompt engineering, ask that you must give this kind of example. But when there are a lot of different kind of the variety of this thing, right? Then it's beyond the LLM, the generic multi-purpose LLM. Then it may make its own guess, then hallucinate already. Whereby your data set, let's say you have 100,000. It covers a different kind of the issue here, everything, different kind of the format of a phone number, everything, you understand better. When you go through the fine-tuning, then this is the part that the prompt engineering cannot give you. Even though it can still give something identical to this, but just using prompt engineering, it might still hallucinate and give you some best of the best case. Whereas after learning from this 100,000 data set with all these proper structure data that is right, then now it can really answer very nicely. Okay. So that is one of the example using on data to see, to demonstrate how this fine-tune work for your domain. In this case, right, the domain here is actually customers experience, which is one of the topic we are doing quite intensively, I would say so. Okay, so therefore this is something, and I think the timing is also good here. Again, those are practical session, right? I leave you all to do it offline, and feel free to contact me from this website, right? I think at the bottom there is a list. You can just connect my LinkedIn, and then we get in touch. You add me as your connection, and then after that, right? If anything, like, feel free to discuss with me. Okay, and also feel free to, if you have any feedback, right, regarding this, like example, we always do all this community workshop, all this thing. What kind of things you want to learn, or if you want to collaborate something, right, be it a research or with industry or something like this, feel free to talk to me also. And the last part is also that for this AI, right, I tend to want to know, actually, this is my personal interest as well. I want to know that how good it is. Actually, this one, the whole thing, right, the LLM, right, this one, I built it using the Gemini. So that I also like to know that how powerful or how limited this Gemini AI is. But probably it only answer all these related items here. Okay, so with that, let me go back just now here to see whether it's already running or not just now. Oh, finished already. Since it finished already, so let me just try to run this and see how. Okay, so now I repeat and run it. You can see that it really provide, but it's still the same thing. That is, again, I told you two things. First, because we are still using some preset data set, it's not a very comprehensive different department name or whatsoever like this. And the second, we only just use a randomly 1,000 random data entries only. But it works well. Okay. Whereas next, right, if you run this one again, it's gonna take a few minutes. You can see all these things together, right? Okay, you already the custom synthetic data set, and then just start everything. Okay, you just run everything here, understand a bit, and then remember the rest of the time, right, try to do this module 4 hands-on labs. All right, with that, I think that's all my sharing session today here. Again, thank you for joining this session. Despite today is Saturday weekend, right? I will stop sharing now and pass back everything to the committee. Thank you.
Doctor, if you don't mind, we have a time of a photo session right now, and would like for all of us to participate. Let's just take a quick photo, just to commemorate this.
Yep, sure.
Yeah, so fellas, if you guys want, you guys can turn on your cameras and whatnot. Let's take a quick photo. All right. I guess I'll smile for the camera. All right, beautiful. I got it already. All right, thank you so much, Doctor, for your sharing. And I just want to say one more time, guys, that week 5 is currently out, and tickets and for onsite and online is available. So you guys can come and join. Obviously, I think you guys already know this, but once you finish 5 weeks of this, you guys will get a cert of completion. Yeah. And you guys are already almost there. You guys are week 4 of week 5. So, come and join us. And I want to thank you all once again for joining. And thank you, Doctor, for sharing. Thank you for your patience, for the unfortunate technical issues that we had. But other than that, I think everything went very well. Thank you so much, guys. And I hope to see you guys next week. Thank you so much, Doctor. And see y'all.
Okay, thank you, everyone. See you. Bye.
Thank you.